Hello. The music you are listening in the background is an album by a British composer called Gavin Bryars, and the title is The Sinking of the Titanic. It's a piece that lasts 24 minutes, and it's always like this. There's this movement, repetitive, like a ship moving towards her destination. Nothing happens, just the waves. And then every now and then you hear people, the noise of people chatting, indifferent, unaware of their fatal destiny. Well, I'm starting with this short introduction on this music because this was the first time I heard about a work of art based on the Titanic, about the film. And many years later, I discovered a poem by Thomas Hardy called The Convergence of the Twain that is quite similar in a way. So what I'm going to do now is not a complete analysis of the poem. There's a document about that. If you have already seen the documents on Hardy, this presentation can help you to refresh, consolidate some key ideas, or see other aspects. If you have not read them yet, what I'm going to say can be considered a sort of introduction. Now, let's start with if you take in front of you the poem, I would like to present to you the musicality of this piece. By the way, even if it was published in the early 20th century, this artist, this writer, a poet, belongs to the previous century. He was very famous as a novel writer. He wrote many masterpieces, but then he decided to stop writing novels because of the creative scandal in Puritan England, as sometimes he was too explicit in describing the hardness of life and love affairs. And so he decided only to write poems, and this is one of these. Another thing, as you probably know, it's typical of English culture when somebody dies, a famous person dies, to write an obituary. An obituary is a text that celebrates the best aspects, the life of the person who has just passed away. So in a way, the Convergence of the Twain is an obituary, a celebration, something in memory of the ship, of a ship, but not only of a ship, or what the ship represents. So let's start with, first of all, as you know, the first thing you should do is always starting with the title. Twain, as you know already, you should know, means twin. So here there is the meeting. Convergence is more geometrical. It's like a mathematical plan between two soulmates, two halves of one thing. The subtitle is Lines on the Loss of the Titanic. That was in April 1912. Now let's start. First of all, if you see the whole poem, you can see it's divided in two parts. first part there's a description of the past and present, and the second part there is an answer. There are answers to the why it all happened. Every stanza has a particular structure, also in the way it is written. There are two short first lines and then a very long one. When you read the first two, you feel speed, movement. But when you read the last one, it takes longer time, and it's like stopping, like crashing against something. Or, if you prefer, is the movement of the ship and the waves. So let's start with the first stanza. In a solitude of the sea, deep from human vanity and the pride of life, the planet her stilly couches she. In the first line there is an iteration that reinforces the concept that sea is solitude, is distance from human vanity, hubris, if you remember, hubris, the sin of pride. And in fact it is repeated, distance from the pride of life that designed this ship as a symbol of the power that man has in life to create beautiful things for their own pleasure. Don't forget that it was that ship was called the Unsinkable. So it was an attribute that in general you cannot think in our lives of something that is eternal, but they did it. She is the ship, couches, lays, rests at the bottom of the sea. In the second stanza, there's another contrast, or better, an antithesis. We have on the first two lines a reference to the past, the fire, the life. Steel chambers late the pyres of her salamandrine fires. It means, the engines where there were the fires that propelled and moved the engines of the ship were very, very hot. Salamandrine refers also to the mythical animal that was a symbol of fire. But now cold currents thread and churn to writhing tidal lyres. But now, instead of hot, the water is cold, and the only movement is the rhythm, musical rhythm of the waves, of the currents under the ocean. Number 3, over the mirrors meant to glass the opulent, the sea worm crowds, grotesque, slime, dumb, indifferent. Also here begins with an alliteration. Mirrors. Mirrors reflect our outside appearance, not our inside. And they were put there to reflect how rich the passengers were. The opulent is the rich people with their jewels, their clothes. But now the same mirrors reflect what? Sea worms, sea animals. What do? They just move, and in their movement they are reflected. How? They are grotesque. Well, why grotesque? Grotesque because, in a way, it's between comic and sad, tragic, slimed, because they are dirty. They move with their, on the mirrors. Dumb, they cannot hear. They cannot hear. They cannot appreciate, because they are also indifferent, the beauty of what they see in the mirrors. Number 4, jewels enjoy designed to ravish the sensuous mind, lie lightless, all their sparkles bleared and black and blind. As you can see also in here, there's the musicality is quite evident with a lot of alliterations. Jewels, a jewel is in general what only rich people can have. And so the jewels that the passengers had on themselves when they went, dancing for their parties, they were designed to charm this sensuality of the passengers. Now they are just at the bottom of the ocean. They lie lightless, without any light. If you remember Thomas Gray, a diamond at the bottom of the ocean is just a stone. All their sparkles, all the lights is bleared, black and blind. Bleared means obfuscated, black, dark, blind, because they cannot see. And then there is the 5th stanza. Dim moon-eyed fishes near gaze at the gilded gear and query, what does this vaingloriousness down here? As you know, the fishes is a literary form. Fish is the contemporary way for singular plural. Because there is a little light, the eyes of the fish are like the moon, half moon. So the fishes with their half moon eyes gaze, watch at all these objects in gold, and they ask themselves, what does all these vain things do down here? What is the purpose of all these jewels, these mirrors? And there is a question, and this is the turning point. The first half, the end of the first half, and the beginning of the second part. Because now, like if you remember in The Lamb by Blake, the first part questions, second part the answers. And now there's written, well, I'll tell you, well, while was fashioning this creature of cleaving wing, the immanent will, the steps and urges everything, prepared a sinister maid for her, so gayly great, shape of eyes, for the time far and dissociate. I read the 2 stanzas together because of the so-called enjambment, that is run-on lines. Everything, the third line continues without any full stop into the next one. So, well, while, was, 3 alliterations. Fashioning means preparing. This creature of cleaving wing, that is, this creature, this ship that could almost fly on the waves. The immanent will, that is this entity that controls life, that steers and urges everything, that moves, gives life, and controls moves to action everything prepared. At the same time, a mate, a companion, sinister. Sinister, as you know, means something mysterious and dangerous for her, for this ship. So gaily great, so beautifully, happily ornated, furnished. What was the mate, the companion for this ship? A shape of ice, a little piece of ice. For the time being, these two companions are distant and dissociate. There's no association, visible association. Number 8. And as the smart ship grew in stature, grace and hue, in shadowy, silent distance grew the iceberg too. So, while the ship grew in shape, in height, in colors, in decorations, at the same time, silently, the shadow, without anybody notice this piece of ice, grew also the iceberg, the mate, the sinister mate. 9. Alien they seemed to be. No mortal eye could see the intimate welding of their later history. But even when they were growing up, they seemed alien. It is with no connection, strangers, no connection between them. No human eye could see the intimate welding, the intimate connection of that was going to happen in their future, near future. So this was something we could not see in advance. 9. Or sign that they were bent by paths coincident on being unknown twin hubs of one August event. There were no signs. How could we predict the meeting of the iceberg and the Titanic? There were no sign. It was not visible that their paths were going to meet. When? Soon. They were going unknown. They were going to meet soon, and they were going to be soon the hubs, the two parts of one. August is not the month here, because as you know, it happened in April. August means tragic, incredible, outstanding event. And then there is the final stanza. Till the spinner of the ears said now, and each one hears, and consummation comes and jars two hemispheres. Now the spinner of the ears is another name of the human will. Spinner of the ears means the entity that controls the time. Until that entity said now. And here there is a reference to the Greek tragedy. As you know, in many Greek tragedies there are gods who play with human beings. They play with them. They decide their future, their death, their happiness. And here there is something similar. We, it appears, are like puppets, toys in the hands of the spinner of the ears. And when he is ready, when he wants it, he says now, then each half, the Titanic and the iceberg, they hear the order, the sign, and consummation comes. Consummation is the end. And jars is a verb that means that is the sound jars is when two metal parts touch each other and put together joins two hemispheres. The two hemispheres are the two perfect parts of a globe, that is the iceberg and the Titanic. Now, study questions, something for you to reflect. What do you think about this story? What do you think about the role of human beings in their lives? We think to be free, we are free to decide our destiny, but we can decide only according to what we see. What about what we cannot see? I don't know why, but it comes to me, to my mind now, the prologue of the Ancient Mariner. If you remember, there was the text in Latin that said there are visible worlds, but there are also invisible worlds, and they are as present, as real as those we can see. So this is one thing. What you should do is just this. Now, read it on your own. Try to feel it, and then there will be a test, an assignment where you will have to answer a few questions about you and the message of this poem. Thank you.